Like many states, we have miles and miles of endless roadway, and according to our own Department of Transportation, we have roughly 141,000 miles of that right here in Minnesota. So it would only make sense that occasionally some things are going to fall off vehicles. And in this video, I'm going to show you some of the most common things that fall off vehicles on our Minnesota roadways. Mattresses are incredibly common. I see them all over the roads, and this is usually the result of not securing the load properly. Many times people transport these on the roofs of their vehicles and use anything they just happen to have in the vehicle to tie it down, which often is not enough. What happens with mattresses is as soon as that wind catches underneath it, the wind is doing its best to try to tear it off, and many times the little bit of string that they're trying to hold it down with is not enough to keep it securely in place. So when transporting a mattress, if you do it on the roof, try to get that leading edge as solid as possible so that wind can't get under it and try to rip it off. Luckily though, we do have an incredible team of not only state troopers, but these FIRST trucks and lots of Department of Transportation employees that work diligently on keeping these roads clean and remove obstructions rather quickly as soon as that call comes out. Many times they will end up shoving them to the side, but in this case, with the bridge being there and the FIRST truck on scene, the decision is made to just simply load it into the back so we can remove it from the roadway completely and it can be disposed of for good. Tires are also incredibly common. Usually they're the results of blowouts. When they blow out and they go flat, they basically get shredded on the inside and fall off the rim completely. And as you can see, all we have here is a circular chunk of rubber. Somebody called in about a tire blocking this exit ramp here, so an officer came to remove it, and you can see that there's another officer behind him to give him some cover and to keep traffic stopped, so he's able to remove it safely. Sometimes it's hard to say exactly what was dropped based on the video, but this looks like it could be a couple of buckets that came out of that vehicle there, and it looks like that one behind it ended up hitting one. A few minutes after, a road worker was able to come and load these buckets into a service truck and remove them from the side of the road there. This looks like those big rolls where after they do construction and they put the sod down, they put the netting over it, and then they have these big things to hold that netting in place. That's what it looks like to me, but I'm not entirely sure. If you know, let me know in the comments. Garbage bags are also incredibly common. Happens all the time. People put them in the back of trucks and either the wind catches them or they're not properly secured or they're just sitting up a little too high and they end up falling out. Take a look at this debris that's blown into the next lane. This BMW has to swerve, and luckily it was into a shoulder and not into an opposite lane of travel or into another vehicle. But shortly after, two cops actually pull up, and one of them ends up moving it to the side of the roadway, and thus opening the roadway again. Now this is a rather large piece of debris. It looks like the side of a fish house or something to me, and it does cause some backups. Some cars do end up hitting it, and hopefully not too much damage is done to their vehicles. There's not really a shoulder to throw it on, so a plow truck comes and an officer there is seen helping the plow truck driver load it up into the back of that salt area. It is ultimately removed and disposed of. Now this is a pretty hard hit. It looks like maybe an appliance or something. He hits it. It stays pretty well intact and flies all the way off to the shoulder, but you can see that the whole corner of his car is now kind of hanging off there. So one more time, whoever dropped this ended up causing a lot of damage and probably some expensive repairs. This looks like the running board of a truck. Car parts are actually incredibly common. This one's dropped off an exit ramp there, or rather an entrance ramp. And the freeway incident response safety guy is going to be grabbing that and removing it. This next one is actually a muffler that fell off. It's not actually uncommon for exhaust pieces to be flying around. There's mufflers left and right everywhere if you really look for them. Shipping pallets are not all that uncommon. They get used to transport everything, so naturally a couple of them are going to fly off trucks here and there. But along with the pallets, there's often parts of the pallet and other things that fall off with it. So this looks like a couple of different pallets, but there's also a lot of extra little debris that this officer is going to be picking up, just so no nails or screws or anything else is going to be lodged in these driver's tires. Top right there, check out that debris. This is a perfect example of why it's important not to follow too closely to the vehicle ahead of you. We got 3 or 4 cars here that actually end up hitting this debris. Plywood is pretty common. People like to stack it in the back of their trucks, and it ends up blowing out or just falling out sometimes. This guy's just going to drag it off to the side and get it out of that lane of travel there. Now, do not be like this guy. Off camera, this cop is performing a rolling roadblock, getting all that traffic behind him to stop. It's very clear that he wants this highway shut down so he can remove this ladder safely without being hit. Notice this car up in that inside lane there just will not have any of it. He picks up the ladder, turns around to throw it, and he almost gets hit by that vehicle. If you are that guy, go get some help. Now he gets back in his car and he speeds off, and I hope he goes and pulls over that guy and lets him know exactly how dangerous what he just did was. I'll speed this up, but you can see a tarp on the road there. It ends up getting caught underneath this vehicle, and this is dangerous for an obvious variety of reasons. Not only could it make you lose control and veer into another lane or off the road, it could obstruct your vision, it could cause mechanical issues getting all wrapped up. And the other thing that people don't really think about is a tarp under your exhaust is also a fire hazard. It could end up igniting and starting to burn and then burning your entire car down. This guy ends up pulling over and trying to remove that tarp, which is not an easy thing to do once it's all wrapped up, and especially melted to your exhaust. And the other thing that's incredibly dangerous is he's standing right there on that edge of the road. And anybody texting could swerve off and slam right into the back of him. Luckily, a state trooper pulls up and is able to assist in getting this guy going again. I'm not entirely sure what was spilled here, but the main reason that this is hazardous, not only for what the contents could actually be, is because in order to clean this up, these troopers have to walk back and forth across active lanes of traffic, and it only takes one distracted driver looking down at his phone to end up running over one of these guys. Luckily, though, no injuries, no incidents like that, and the driver ended up staying at the scene, and he's just waiting under that next overpass, just off camera there. Another large spill. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but troopers end up shutting down a couple lanes of the highway there so they can end up getting everything cleaned up. There's a lot of little bits of debris, and it takes them a while to get it all off the road there. Lots of furniture gets dropped, and this couch didn't quite make it. It ends up getting hit by a semi, and then subsequently a passenger vehicle. And we have another ladder. Now, I'm not sure if this guy owned the ladder, but the vehicle he's driving makes me think that he didn't drop it. Might just be an opportunist, but either way, he got himself a ladder. You can see he walks down the shoulder and goes back to his vehicle, and he ends up putting it in the trunk there. I was once told by a state trooper that if it's on the road, it's fair game, so can't fault the guy for getting himself a free ladder. Now, there are countless other things that get dropped that I have not included in this video, but these are some of the most common things that we see dropped on these highways. Remember to please, please, please secure your load so you don't end up accidentally damaging other people's vehicles, and you don't lose that precious cargo that you're trying to transport.